BAM podcast.
OTB.
Friday Night Racing.
Sports Radio. Off the ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.
And you're very welcome along to Friday Night Racing. We do this every Friday afternoon across all of our social channels on offtheball.com, on YouTube, on Facebook and on Twitter. And then every Friday evening we're live on the radio on News Talk as well. So you're very welcome however you are consuming us this Friday afternoon. Johnny Ward is with us. Johnny, how are you?
Good, Ger. Yourself?
Wrapped in Sam Crow, which is off at the moment.
He's just about to jump the second last, and everything's been foot perfect so far. I guess this is one of the most eagerly anticipated chase debuts in a few years. He's over. He's about 8 clear, hasn't come remotely off the bridle yet, everything under pressure and behind. So if you are a Sam Crow lover, the dream is kind of back on at the moment. No means horses, just, you can tell I'm not a commentator.
Somebody's phone's ringing there. You can tell you're definitely not a commentator or a radio professional
Cheryl's
for that matter.
going off, is it?
Cheryl McClean, is that your phone?
Yeah, it's my alarm.
No. They're ringing to say you're on the telly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's my alarm, actually, so it's giving me nightmares when I hear it, 'cause it means I have to get up. Sam Crow's just about to jump the last. Where is your phone, actually?
It's over there if somebody wants to come in and drag it out.
And this alarm goes on and on and on. It just doesn't, it's like a car alarm in the middle of the night.
Alarm to go back to work.
Sam Crow has won by 10 to 12 lengths.
Impressive?
Yeah, so obviously trying to show up here, I didn't see it all, but he seemed to jump very well. And he was more or less put out in front, so it was kind of an uncomplicated steer for Sam Crow today, so impressive.
OK, well, we're going to talk about 5 National Hunt horses to look out for the rest of the season. We're going to look back at some of the highlights of the flat season as well. But Cheryl McClean is with us. Is it McClean or McLean?
McLean.
McLean, OK. Yeah. Who won the Newcomer Award on Tuesday night at the Godolphin Stud and Stable Awards at the 2019 Awards in the Killashee Hotel in Ace. So first off, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
What do you win?
A trip to Dubai, €2,500 and €1,000 for the yard.
Wow.
That's not too bad.
That's pretty good.
Do you get to bring anyone, or are you going on your own?
No, it's an educational trip, so the other newcomers that have won the award will be met up in Dubai, I think, and you'll all go around together. I think it's set in a programme, so
cool.
Something to look forward to.
Absolutely.
How new is a newcomer?
Someone who's been in racing the past 3 years.
Right.
So.
This is your 3rd year?
Yeah, just over my 3rd year. But.
And what exactly do you do?
Well, I work in Willie McCreary's in Rathbard Stables. Every day is different. Of course, I ride out the horses every day and exercise them. But, you know, if I'm not riding out horses or on the yard, I could be away racing or taking horses home, or even if I'm on the yard, I'd be dealing with owners or assisting a vet or farrier, showing horses, checking horses over to make sure all their welfare needs are being met and that there's no problems.
Were you horsey growing up?
Yeah, I started horse riding when I was around 9. Now, it's only been the past 6 years that I actually got into race horses.
Right.
Like back in the early days, I kind of just had my own few ponies, and that's when I knew I wanted to stay with them, and that's why I went to college then.
Do you fall in love with a pony? Is that how it works?
Yeah.
An awful lot of people just said, like, my father got me a pony. It was like Lisa and The Simpsons, and then there was Lisa gave away the pony because there was only one episode, but like
yeah.
You just seem to fall in love with a lot of people.
Yeah, from the very first point I sat on one, I knew it was what I wanted to do.
We've made that point before, like if horses were in your life kind of a lot earlier, an awful lot of people would be hooked, but most of us just don't get the chance for whatever reason, particularly if you're living in an urban existence, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know, were your family interested as well, your siblings, or?
No, none of my family have been interested. It's been something I've got into myself almost. Like my dad would follow a bit of the horse racing, but the rest of them, no interest.
Where are you from?
County Down in Bangor.
So you're not far from Downpatrick?
No.
Not a million miles, yeah.
No, about 45 minutes.
Yeah, so they obviously, and Down Royal would have their big meeting, such a big meeting. I think it's such a track that I think Northern racegoers are really proud of as well, because it's like you see Gordon Elliott bringing all his top horses up there. It's no coincidence that Sam Crow ran there today, because it's such a good track and proper Grade 1 track as well.
Yeah, it's a lovely track. Like you'd have a good old crowd there as well.
The 2 Northern Irish tracks, the crowd they get would put a lot of the Southern tracks to shame.
So there's obviously like a few areas, a few pockets of racing in Ireland that are absolutely steeped in it. Is Bangor a race country, or is Down race country?
No, not particularly. It'd be very quiet. Obviously, you have the few. Downwell would probably be the main racetrack, and then you've Downpatrick.
Yeah.
But it'd be fairly quiet.
So when you wanted to get a job in racing, you targeted the Curragh?
Yeah, I did. Just because there's so many trainers, so many tracks, so many places of work to take the horses.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be a big place to go.
But you're 15, 16, 17, you want to go to college to do something that's going to help you get into racing. What did you do?
I did a foundation degree in horse management.
Right.
That was in Enniskillen in County Fermanagh. I mean, that looked into everything, you know, nutrition, grassland, welfare, business.
Good course.
Yeah, brilliant course. And I graduated there in May 2016. But college was where I actually got into the racehorses, as
Right.
they have a few pointers.
So the college has a few pointers?
Yeah, it has its equitation horses, and then it has a racehorse
Oh,
bit
right.
of the yard. Yeah.
Okay, right. So
So
it's
it was
hands-on experience?
Yeah,
Right.
definitely, as well as the theory. So then that's when I picked up the racehorses, and I knew that I wanted to work with racehorses then.
Why?
I just like the thrill of it, and the speed as well. There's nothing more exciting, you know, when you're riding a horse and just flowing along. Obviously, you're in control, but
Sometimes.
sometimes.
In case there's any owners watching, always.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's just a thrill of it, mainly.
And so you go to college, and then you're coming out of college. How do you get into Willie McCreary's yard?
So obviously when I was finishing up college, I wanted a job. And previously, during my summers, when I was in college, I actually got in with Richard Brabazon, a pre-trainer on the Curragh. And I guess he was the one that kind of pointed me in the right direction, you know, encouraged me to get onto a bit of a bigger yard. He pre-trains a lot of yearlings.
Right.
And he gave me a bit more knowledge and experience into what the racing industry was like. So anyway, after I finished college, I contacted Willie, and he was the first trainer to get back to me. And
Did you contact loads of people?
yeah, I
like one of
contacted a
those-
few people.
Dear sir, I'm finishing up 3 years. I mean, we all wrote those letters, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
a bit like a CV.
Yeah.
But he was the first one to get back to me, so I went on a trial with him, and I've been there ever since.
What's
Right.
Willie like?
He's good.
Yeah, we've had him on the show.
Yeah.
Entertaining guest. Of course, him and Ger go back a long time to being involved in some shape or form in 1998 when Galway beat Kildare.
Yeah. it's- funny
Willie
you
was
bring
playing
that up again.
midfield, yeah.
He was a bit more involved than I was, in fairness.
He was midfield, but no, he's a cracking trainer, to be fair. And I'd say, like, you could join a trainer that's quite boring or quite like you know, sour face in the morning, but he's not. He's in fairness, he's actually good crack.
Yeah, he is. And he's good to work for. You know, you'd have the crack with him. And he'd always, you know, keep you right.
Keep you right.
Keep you
Yeah,
right.
Keep you grounded.
Yeah.
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 So how do you win? What separates you? I mean, this is a very difficult question to answer, but what makes you better than everybody else? What were the criteria? How do they judge this?
Just. Well, nothing makes me better than anybody else.
Joking, of course, but when they're looking for, you know, what you've done over the last couple of years that makes you stand out, what is it that actually, in terms of the competition, what are the day-to-day things that you do that kind of...
I suppose it's my dedication and my passion for the racehorses, you know. Like, it's a job I've always loved. You know, I get up in the morning and I'm actually looking forward to going to work. And I treat every day different, you know. Like, there's always a smile on my face going around work. You never really see me sad. So I think just my passion for it, really. And
Because you need that. They're long days, aren't they? Like,
Yeah.
you're first thing in the morning, kind of last thing as it gets dark and putting the horses to sleep.
yeah, and even at that, if you were to go racing, you know, most of the racing is voluntary, and I go racing a lot. And you may not be back till 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
But it's just, you know, it's your job, and it only lasts really the summertime because it's the flat season. So obviously we're busy, but it's something you know, if you love, you'll do it.
Do you have a smile on your face because that's your personality, or because if you were in an office, you might have a slightly different attitude to getting up in the morning. So,
I'd hate to be in an office.
Yeah. So is it like being around the horses that make you?
Yeah, being outside, being practical, being around the horses, being around people. It's just what I love, really.
The riding aspect of it, are you like, is that every day or?
Yeah. That's every day.
Who are you riding out with there then?
I'm riding out with, I'd say, about 9 other people.
What names would we recognise?
Michael Clark.
Right.
He's a head lad at William McCurry's. Nathan Cross.
Yeah.
He's my boyfriend.
Oh, wow.
So
the biggest revelation came 10 minutes in. Nathan and Shane are obviously brothers and 2 really good riders, actually. Does he bring in like professional jockeys to ride often, or is?
Yeah, Billy Lee and Lee Roach.
Lovely.
Those would be the 2 main ones now that come in work mornings.
You go out with Nathan, but what's the perspective of dating a jockey who's kind of in the early days and you're right, you know, your claim starts getting smaller and it gets that bit tougher as you get older, because like Nathan's obviously he made a very good impression early on and now he's trying to kind of get to that next level. So is it hard on a young guy like that mentally?
Yeah, it is. I mean, he'd know, because he's done it enough years now, he knows like the right things to do, right things to eat especially. But for him that's been doing it quite a while, he knows how to lose it and put it on. I think that's what it comes down to. You know, he doesn't waste, and then when he can put on that weight, he doesn't go eating a load of junk. So he knows the right stuff to eat and when to go exercising and everything.
What's the rivalry between him and Shane then? Because Shane is having such a good time, but obviously with the top yard as well. Yeah,
Shane's having a great time. I think he'd struggle a bit more with his weight. But I think he's just a slightly bigger build than Nathan. I mean, it all kind of comes down to just their body type, really. And muscle mass.
Yeah, I know you said every day is different, but are there kind of consistent things that you have responsibility for every day? Is there like a number of times you've got to check them, make sure they're eating up, all that kind of stuff? And are you the eyes and the ears of the trainer in some respects if he's away dealing with stuff?
Well, Michael Clark would be the eyes and the ears of the trainer. Like if he was unavailable, I'd step in. Now, obviously, before we ride every horse, we make sure that it's sound, there's no heat or anything in the legs. And
is that literally by feel?
Yeah.
You put your hand on the horse, and if there's no, it's like your child has a temperature or not, but you've got to kind of make sure that there's nothing.
Yeah, no heat or lumps or bumps. None of them are breaking out in ringworm, which is probably going to be what's expected during the winter time.
Right.
So you know you have your certain precautions of that. But I mean, each horse at Willie's is treated individually, you know. And like say there's a horse we may not get along with or anything, you know, we'd go and tell him and he'd change us. And every horse.
That's interesting, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that happen much?
Sometimes, yeah. You know, he doesn't want someone being a bit rough with a certain horse if they don't get along with it. But then again, if a certain horse may be taking the mick out of someone, he'd change it, you know. He can't just sit there. So, yeah, he'd kind of suit every horse to every person as best he can. Just the odd time.
And so, would you then be paired with that horse on race day, for example, if that horse is being led into the start line and stuff?
It depends, like, most of the horses I'd ride nearly every day, you know, I'd volunteer to go with it racing. But you'd have the odd horse that may be a bit difficult, so it'd require a lad.
Right.
Just for strength, basically. But most of the time, if your horse is kind of going racing that you ride and you kind of look after it, you go with it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
So, like, when you got into college, you wanted to work in racing, and now you're working in racing. What do you want to do in racing?
I mean, I'm taking every day as it comes at the moment. I hope maybe further down the line to bring on some management type of role. That could be a head girl or...
Trainer?
I don't know.
You and the cross lad could, like, be a double act. Who knows, yeah?
Yeah. Not sure.
Yeah. It's just a lot of pressure to that, though.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure to that. Like I said, like, I'm just taking every day as it comes.
Should have it all figured out at whatever age you are, like 20, 21.
24.
24, yeah. Wow. Long way to go.
Yeah, yeah.
Would you recommend getting involved in the industry if people are, like, in any way wavering? Because I know we've lots of listeners who are transition year and in between there and leaving cert, and even in college doing courses that they don't really like, thinking the exact thing that you said about being stuck in an office all the time isn't for them, and there is an alternative. There's an outdoor life. You can go. There's loads of different ways to get into this now in Ireland.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely recommend it for someone who may not want to be into an office, who wants to be outside. I definitely give it a go. Like Willie always has time for people to improve. Like when I first went to him, you know, I wasn't the best. Didn't have a style about me, or I was weak, but he made time for me and I improved. And I'm grand now, I'm flying, but I definitely recommend it. Give it a go and see what it's like.
What's your favourite part of the job?
I like going racing, just taking runners to the races and presenting them, you know, platting them up and doing them over and making them look 10 out of 10 and leading them up, and even for them to run well, you know, it kind of gives you a bit of an achievement. When
they win, is the whole yard just on fire? Is it lit?
Yeah, I mean, we had a bit of a hot spot there during the summer. We were flying with doubles and trebles, and the whole yard was on fire. You know, it was good. It was a good time of the year. Like so far, I think this year we've had 26 winners, and I think last year it was 29. So
you have 2 days to.
Yeah, I think we've a runner there, Mowgli, on Sunday in Naas. So we'll just have to see how he goes.
Naas is the last day of the flat season, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of a flat season has it been?
I wouldn't say it's been an amazing flat season. You know, we can go through the top 5 kind of, I suppose, moments if you want in due course or now, whenever. But
take a quick break before we get to that. But go on.
Yeah, it's been.
Entice people along to come back after the break here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there have been some good moments. Not necessarily. My top one isn't actually horse related. I don't know if there have been like ridiculous standout performers. Enable was beaten in the Arc in her historic bids. I don't think there was an outstanding middle distance horse per se in the 3-year-old bracket. There was one outstanding 2-year-old that we'll get to as well. But no, it was just one of those years cyclically where I don't know what you thought of it. I know you have a nice horse for next year up, Helia as well, who's by Galileo and out of Aussie Rules, who we out of Faisalana, or the Aussie Rules filly who we spoke about, but he must be a big favourite in the yard. Do you look after him actually?
I don't.
Yeah.
The lads look after him. He's a bit boisterous for the girls.
Right.
He's actually, I think he's finished now. He's just out in the paddock every day. But he'd definitely be something to look forward to next year. Yeah.
He could be a proper horse for Willie.
Mm-hmm.
Do they just have the crack now for 3 or 4 months, like out in the paddock, eating, not doing any work?
So yeah, most of them. I mean, this time of year, it does get a bit quieter. Horses go home and they're put out into the paddock, out into grass, until next year, just to grow a bit more and strengthen them up a bit more.
So they're not ridden out every day, or are they at that stage?
No.
No, they're resting, basically.
Yeah, they're resting until next year, because obviously in the next few weeks, the yearlings will be coming in.
Right.
So it'll be the whole breaking process with them.
And that happens, I didn't realise you guys do that.
Yeah.
Right. But most trainers actually don't, do they? Most trainers don't break horses.
Well, a lot of them do.
Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them do.
Okay.
Maybe not many, but we normally would have a good few now every year.
The smaller trainers have to do a lot more as well, you know, just because it's the nature of the
Otherwise,
game.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
So
it's not like a quiet time for the yard, it's a quiet time for the 2- and 3-year-olds who go off and then everybody else is busy.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you now. Your friends when you were younger in Bangor, are you still pally with them, or have you just gone into a totally different world?
A totally different world, to be honest, yeah. A couple of them I'd keep in touch with nowadays, but I mean, it's a whole different life for me up here now. Ever since I've been up here and living up here, it's just a whole new life, whole new friends.
It happens to us all.
Yeah.
Well, listen, congratulations, Cheryl. Good stuff. Enjoy your trip to Dubai, and thanks for coming in today.
Thank you very much.
Congrats.
Cheryl McClean there, the Newcomer Award winner on Tuesday night at the Godolphin Stud and Stable Staff Awards 2019. This is Friday Night Racing here on Off the Ball, brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie or follow the new Twitter account at HRI Racing. We're going to get Johnny's top 5 flat season and also get 5 horses to look forward to for the jump season right after this.
Friday Night Racing.
On Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.
OTB Sports Radio. OTB Gold, the very best of Off the Ball.
Are you crazy?
This is OTB Sports Radio. This week on OTB Gold.
Absolutely brilliant manoeuvre by Mantle, fantastically brave.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a life and a career, yeah. Thank you for giving me this platform to announce my retirement.
Remember the World Cup being very little fun.
Westwood lead 2-13 to 2-8.
Honest, I thought it was just great to get an Irish shirt.
OTB Gold, the very best of Off the Ball. Weekdays from 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. This is OTB Sports Radio. The Sunday Paper Review on Off the Ball.
When he wants to do something, he does it. A hugely impressive person, apart from being obviously a brilliant golfer.
My cousins disliked their dog so intensely that they renamed it Scalacci.
Yeah.
And the dog was called Scalacci from then on.
It's a great piece of journalism. That sums up what he's like. The intro to this is just brilliant. He is an absolute control freak.
Digesting the best stories on the back pages every Sunday afternoon on Off the Ball. Off the Ball. This is OTB Sports Radio
Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.
Okay, so the flat season comes to an end effectively, obviously not including Dundalk at the weekend, in Naas, and on top of that, as your sound is coming through there, folks, Johnny, your top 5 for the year?
I think, as I said kind of beforehand, it hasn't been an amazing campaign, without putting a kind of a negative spin on it. If I start with maybe number 5, Sovereign winning the Irish Derby was not a good result for punters in general, because Pádraig Beggy rode him and he was a huge price, but taken away from that, for Pádraig Beggy to have so few rides and to win the Derby.
Sovereign was the front runner who's supposed to be a pacemaker, who they only added in so that it would be a good each-way race.
Yeah,
that was
your knowledge is impressive. Reputedly, John Magner wanted a 3-place race for punters, and I actually tend to take him on his word. I think he actually probably did, and it meant that maybe some people backed Sovereign that wouldn't have backed him because they were getting 3 places. But he went out in front and
80 to 1.
He was probably 100 to 1 on the day. He went off. I think he went off 33s, 50s maybe. But
right.
I backed Norway. I don't know, 3 or 4 places, and Norway went after him. And Norway struggled, but kind of kept plodding on and finished, I think, 3rd or 4th. But the favourite went after Sovereign, but could never get near him. And it was just Pádraig Beggy's, renaissance since he came back from Australia to essentially ride like a handful of horses a year and to only ride long shots in the Derby, but have the quality to win races on totally different rides as well. When he won at Epsom a few years ago, he was basically tracking the favourite in the race. This was a completely different ride.
The build-up to that was obviously all about Kevin Prendergast.
Yeah,
that was a great week-long story.
Yeah, that would have. I mean, the race probably didn't go to suit him, but maybe Mad Moon's kind of plateaued a bit. But Kevin at 87, to be going as strong. Cheryl comes in here at 23. He has 64 years in her, and Kevin still every year he'll have horses that he keeps for the apprentices to ride. So literally he kind of runs the horses in the family colours, but they're there to educate the apprentices at the racetrack. And how many apprentices has Kevin Prendergast seen come and go throughout the years, yet he's still sort of dreaming of next year. So that would have been an amazing story, to be fair. So apart from that, I think number 4, I'm going to say the return of the Curragh to some sort of prominence in terms of the national racing thinking, because it went through 2 years of rehabilitation. It was well past its sell-by date. And then when you spend an awful lot of money on a place and there are an awful lot of teething problems early on, it's hard to deal with that, because it's public money to a large extent that's spent on a facility that doesn't attract a huge crowd, and you'll have a lot of naysayers. Obviously, I come from a League of Ireland background as well, and I think the government could maybe put more money into League of Ireland grounds. But at the same time, the Curragh needed money, needed redeveloping, and for the first sort of few meetings, it had serious problems. Everything from too many in the queue to the stand actually making a strange noise in the wind, like this really irritating whistling noise. So these things, that a lot of things were maybe within their control, something like that was fairly obscure, but they've solved that, and I think it's actually a great racing experience now. It's a very Irish thing to be very upset for the first 6 months or something, and then in 2 or 3 years to go, oh yeah, remember we were all angry with that. That was a bit of an overreaction on our part, wasn't it? This is great. Yeah. Think about everything. I remember when they cleaned government buildings and the country was on its uppers, but like you walk down Kildare Street and you look at it now and you're like, wow, that's actually pretty nice. You walk down Marion Street and it's like also very nice. But like we looked tatty and crap before that. Now, we have to put our best foot forward sometimes to attract paying customers, to attract sponsorship. It's like it's a circular thing. Yeah. You need to invest if you want the product to be good. They made the investment and people are like, no, I can't believe you made this investment. Like, I don't know, I think in 6 months' time, in a year's time, in 2 years' time, everybody's going to go, it won't even be a story. They'd have forgotten about it. No, and like Pat Keogh became the CEO, and he, at his last meeting, gave free entry for everyone, which was kind of put forward as a locals meeting to try to get the locals back. People like yourself from Kildare who, obviously you live in Dublin now, but a lot of people from Kildare just stopped going to the Curragh, and that was a real challenge. We would have gone as kids though, like, yeah. You know, and a lot of people we know would have gone as kids. You would have seen people you know, and like that will happen. That will come back. Like, absolutely. We need to really advertise the prospect of actually being at a race meeting, because if you have a race meeting if you have an 8 race card with 35-minute gaps, which can happen, that's effectively 4 hours at a race meeting. In that 4 hours, something is happening for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, the actual sport. So there's an awful lot of time there that needs to be filled. That is the biggest challenge for me for racing as a sport going forward, because with smartphones, our attention span is getting worse and worse and worse. It's actually hard to watch a football game now without looking at your phone the whole time, whether it is to check what other people are saying about it or just purely from habit. So to go to a race meeting, we need to fill the time between races as best we can, and it's not easy. And I think the Curragh, that might be one of the challenges going forward, to make the race goer really appreciate going there, apart from the social aspect. And the Curragh's facilities, to me, are top notch, and just the fact that you can go up 2 flights of stairs, you're right over the parade ring, walk around 5 seconds and you're at the finishing line, and you have a great view of it, and I don't think that should be undersold. Yeah, cool. Looking forward to heading down again. Number three is the challenge between Donnacha O'Brien and Colin Keane for the jockey's title, and obviously Andy Slattery leading the way in the Princes, but we had Donnacha in, not sure when it was now, what was it, like in earlier on the season? Yeah. And it always struck me that February time, I want to say. Yeah, he hadn't eaten for about 30 hours or something at that stage, and what he'd eaten 30 hours ago wasn't an Irish fry up. It was like a Jaffa cake or something. And you know, we've all had the hangry girlfriend or the hangry brother or sister, and you're like, don't go near that person when, like. Are you not the hangry one? No, I'm actually fairly laid back, but at the same time you do get narky when you're hungry. And I do not go a day and a half without eating anything. No. I go a few hours and then I get a bit like, well, okay. So for him to be at the top of the tree, granted, you know, if you're going to be the Irish begrudgery, yes, he has the best horses, yes, yada yada, he's going to become a trainer and he'll have a head start on other people, but there's something about the way that he speaks about horses as well that makes me wonder how good he's going to be as a trainer. And just there's just no BS out of him at all. I just love that. There's like, he comes off a horse the other night. It was a full brother to Glen Eagles at Dundalk. And he rode him like he couldn't be beaten, bar an accent. But he said, like, I don't know how good this horse is going to be. I'm not going to spoof here, but like I think he could be really good. But like, what am I going to say? He's won twice. Like, hopefully he develops into a right good horse. And he's matter of fact, and what he's done with his weight to be riding at 9 stone when he should probably be, and I'm speculating here, but he should probably be about 11 or 12 stone, and he's riding at 9 stone, and he's riding at the top of his game, and he doesn't make mistakes. Pretty impressive. Very impressive. Number 2. How close is that battle? I think it's pretty much finished now. I think it's 5 or 6, right. 7 actually. So it's probably mathematically possible for Colin Keane. Colin Colin had to ride 688 horses to Donica's 457 to get that close, which is indicative of, you know, Colin basically, like, just the stats here are astounding. Donica's ridden 88 horses this year. This is actually staggering, if it's true, which I understand it to be true. So your winners to runners rating would probably be around about 30%. Colin's is 44%. So the number of individual horses he rode, 44% of them, which is like what, 4 in, what are we going to say? That's not far off half anyway. 83 of the 189 have won. Donica has ridden 88 horses. 85 of them have won. So all but 3 of them have won, which shows you that he rides a lot of good horses. But that shouldn't be understated as well.
That brings the pressure. Like, that's
absolutely. And he's riding, and again, like, this goes back to Joseph as well. Joseph got the job in Aidan O'Brien's primarily because he was Aidan O'Brien's son, which brings me to Donica's comment, which was more or less to the effect of, what's your best attribute as a jockey? And he said, being Aidan O'Brien's son. And he said that only partly in cheek because, yes, you will get an advantage, but Joseph and Donica not only had to deal with the pressure of dealing with billionaire owners or whatever, and the pressure of riding in the Epsom Derby, riding in Santa Anita and so on and so forth, they also had to do this while living completely unnatural lives in terms of what they were doing in terms of eating.
It was exactly a year ago. It was exactly a year ago. It was the week. I think was it the week after the Melbourne Cup or the week before the Melbourne Cup? Because we were talking about it. He might actually have been.
Yeah, and this might have been when he rode Latrobe for his dad, for his brother rather, to win the Irish Derby. But he rode and I think Aidan is genuinely getting more of a kick from kind of what his kids are doing than what he's doing. And obviously he had the scare with Anna as well, when she had such a scare. So I think the family life's important to him, but he should be very proud of them. And talk about humble, you know, there's absolutely no airs of grace about them whatsoever. And I just reiterate, if you saw Donica O'Brien's like daily routine and diet for the last year, it's quite astounding. Like, sports people should be. We had a nutritionist on last week, and Dundalk and Shamrock Rovers are preparing for the Cup final on Sunday, and the England and South Africa are preparing for the World Cup final, and what they've put into their bodies and are not put into their bodies over the past year will have been examined to the nth degree, and these lads are starving themselves to be at the top of their profession.
Yeah. Okay. Number 2.
So number 2 is going back to equine. It's Pinatubo, who bolted up in the Vincent O'Brien Goffs National Stakes at the Curragh, which lit up the Curragh that day on the second day of Irish Champions weekend, and it was an astounding performance, which would mark him down as being a potentially special horse for Godolphin next season. Godolphin have a really bad record in the Guineas for some reason, but this fella's very relaxed, and he should buck the trend in terms of that. He should win the Guineas. Aidan doesn't seem to have a really outstanding 2-year-old, but time will tell, I suppose.
The possibility for this year's 2-year-olds to become good 3-year-olds, it's not a straight line. You don't automatically not be good because as a 3-year-old because you weren't great as a 2-year-old.
No.
The maturity and the stuff that happens over the summer, over the winter between 2 and 3 can actually change horses, right?
Yeah, like, absolutely. If you're by Galileo, that's a huge help. He's by Shamardale, who's kind of the one of the showpiece Darley stallions for Godolphin. But if you look at like Air Force Blue, who is Aidan O'Brien's one of probably the best 2-year-olds he's ever trained, by Warfront, absolutely no good as a 3-year-old for whatever reason, didn't train on. Galileos are bred to and invariably do train on. But whether Aidan has anything quick enough for the Guineas, I'm not so sure. Whereas Pinatubo is a lovely way of racing as well. He just doesn't. He's not flashy, and he probably preserves a bit for himself.
Okay, number 1.
Number 1 was the same day. You know, this thing would have won in a hack canter in terms of my memory of the year. Anyway, it was the cancer trials. How it brought racing together that day, and you know, there was obviously question marks about the Curragh, what crowd it might get. The Derby crowd was 12,000, and Irish Champions weekend hasn't gotten great crowds at the Curragh for various reasons during its redevelopment, but over 10,000 people came in. By far the most moving day I've ever had at a race course, because you saw all these veterans riding purely for Pat Smullen. That particular image where Tony McCoy and Smullen, who would legitimately be called 2 of the harder men in racing, and that Smullen probably abandoned normal life for the guts of 20 years. And I think Smullen's drive for winners wouldn't have been far off McCoy's, because McCoy is known as this kind of like single-minded, almost freakish win, and win in any race, go, you know, against starve yourself. But Smullen, as a rider, had that as well. And that particular day was, in terms of the racing family, was, I don't think it'll be topped, and it might never be topped in my lifetime. It was just this palpable emotion. We all realised we're all immortal, and we're all mortal rather, and that you know, some people are going through tough times, but that day, with the right result, with McCoy winning, Pat Smullen being friendly with the family, and Pat in tears for the photographs, was I don't know, you're not even thinking of it now, you tend to get emotional thinking about it, because it's only a race, and that day meant racing was a lot more than racing to me anyway. Yeah, no, it's a worthy winner of your highlight of the year. I did want to ask you about the Melbourne Cup this week, because obviously it was an incredible weekend last year when Joseph wins, and Aidan O'Brien still hasn't won it. Is that right? Was that Joseph's first attempt at winning it last year? I think it was, because the thing about it was a 3-year-old, and it looked a very kind of brave move from Joseph to send Rekindling out there, because 3-year-olds, like, it's such an ordeal for a horse to run in that race, 2 miles against seasoned handicappers. And I don't know, I guess Joseph's hand was maybe a little bit forced by the ownership or whatever, but he went out there, and the Irish have, like, I remember talking to Aidan about the Melbourne Cup one day, and he did say something off the record which I can't really repeat, but it was to the extent of, like, it is a handicap, so you do have to contextualise it. It's not like I'm not going all the way around the world to win, like, you know, the Breeders' Cup Mile, or you know, the Kentucky Derby, which I think is a definite ambition of his. He does contextualise the Melbourne Cup, and he also has had some iffy experiences with the authorities out there. I remember one of his horses, you know, maybe a couple of his horses in the same year, he had to go back to the shores. I think he was on his way to the airport, and he had to go back to the shores to discuss the race tactics. And his horse had actually disappointed on the day, and that was kind of like kicking a fellow when he was down. So I'm not sure how much Aidan loves the race, but it's going to be interesting. I have to say, it's not a race that overly inspires me. I really haven't even looked at it much this year. At the minute, Constantinople is favourite. Il Paradiso, 12-1, will obviously carry plenty of local hope. I'm not sure if Magic Wand runs, but Latrobe is the exact same connections of, we mentioned Latrobe, they're the same connections as Rekindling, and, you know, the Irish Derby winner. I think this has kind of been his basically his prep for this season, and he's a horse that you have to go over there and be in quarantine. You have to adjust to the southern hemisphere, completely different kind of environment. You have to, and then that's before the race itself, which can be really rough race. But like, Tony Martin's gone very close, and Willie Mullins has gone really close. That famous line from Patrick when their horse was beaten, and he said, you know, we've gone halfway around the world to be beaten by a horse who's trained literally 50 miles away, showed where the Irish had become. And, you know, there's a race on Sunday at Naas, so I think Willie has 6 or 7 runners in a handicap in the flat, and I'd say rather by accident more than design, he's discovered that these flat handicaps, like the Ebor's a Million race and the Melbourne Cup, is genuinely the race that stops the nation. At the moment, Joseph has Master of Reality, Latrobe.
JP's asking, do horses get jet lag?
Twilight. Yeah, like I'd well imagine. Like, horses can go to the race. Like, horses, like, there was Battle Over Dying who made his chase debut there the other day. The story around Cheltenham was that he didn't travel over well last year, and that was only to Cheltenham.
Wasn't there something about Dermot Weld flying counterclockwise, and that's how he managed to get the first Irish victory? He was like, hang on a second, we've been doing this all wrong. Was there not something?
Again, it reminds of Simpsons, where Bart wanted to see if the toilet flushed the other way. But with DK, I mean,
it apocryphal, or?
I think the great man is the only one to answer that. I don't know. Would it be much of a difference? Fly to Australia?
I don't know.
The other way.
Flight path was different. It was going to experiment with this.
I should mention the other runners. This is pretty poor prep on my behalf, but Il Paradiso looks to be the main Aidan one. Magic Wand, a filly to win that race would be a hell of an achievement. But you've Mustagier, who was sold by Ger Lyons after winning the big handicap earlier in the year as well. So there's a lot of horses with Irish or / ex-Irish interest, but being honest, it's not really a race that floats my boat maybe as much as it should.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about some horses to watch for the National Hunt season. I'm going to hold you to these now.
Didn't we have a plan to do like one a week or something like that?
We did last year, and
that was
I did ask you to do that, but never happened. I like the way we have these production meetings on air here, Johnny.
Yeah.
Oh, I remind you about stuff that we're
still rolling.
We were.
So.
Okay, if you don't want to do 5 today.
No. Let's do 5. At least one of which runs tomorrow actually, and 2 of which are trained by Gordon Elliott, and going to take high rank in the novice hurling division this season. So let's start with Malone Rhodes, who won't be running tomorrow, but was extremely exciting at this very meeting last year when I was there. Absolutely bolted up in a bumper. And
who is Malone Rhodes?
Malone Rhodes is an ex-pointer by Calanisi, who's trained by Gordon, and has, for a horse that won a point-to-point, has a remarkable turn of foot, and was favoured for the Cheltenham bumper. I think he was only like 5-2, and then he did step back, but he's in great form. I can see him both running in the Supreme Novice. Hopefully I'm not wrong on that.
So this is a novice hurler?
This is a novice hurler. He hasn't run yet this season, but all going well seemingly.
And how far is a novice hurler supposed to run?
2 miles to 3.
Right. And you don't know whether or not you don't know if it's going to stay the 3 miles until.
No.
How do you find that out?
Well, you run them really. You know, they wouldn't be working
home.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't. Like, you'd work them at home over 5 furlongs and work them, whatever, a couple of times, but absolutely not. You wouldn't. You can run schooling races, but they're only preps as well.
So it's based on breeding?
Based on breeding, based on the feel that the horse gives the jockey, based on the intuition of the trainer. I remember telling you that story before about having a horse with Willie Mullins, who was 10 or 11 years of age, who was generally as exposed as you can get. Like it's like a 33-year-old left back, and he wanted to see him work to figure out what he thought was his trip was. And I thought this is astounding. Like, I mean, look in the form book, everything is there. And he said, well, I want to see him myself. I want to see with the naked eye. So it's kind of literally like a 33-year-old left back with the manager's signed for the club or fallen into. He says, I want to see you play. I don't know where you play. Like
centre mid.
Yeah.
Have a go.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like, oh.
Now, this horse turned out to be the equivalent of the lad who basically was on the bench and then sold very quickly. Right. But anyway, number 4 on the list.
It was Georgie Way's
is the unbeaten Envoy Allen.
Oh, yeah.
Now, same connections as Malone Rhodes. Question mark is, what trip will he go for? I think he'll go for the Ballymore Novice Hurdle trip of 2.5 at Cheltenham, and he makes his hurdling debut tomorrow.
This is hurdle. So last year he was a
bumper horse, and obviously won the Cheltenham bumper in very good style. Looks a proper horse, and I think he'll be very exciting this year. Right, so number 3 is Chacon Pour Soi.
Can I just ask, sorry, will Malone Rhodes and Envoy Allen, they won't go up against each other because they've got the same connections, but should they be? Are they at the same stage of their career?
Like, maybe in time. They are, but I think genuinely with these, and like William Mullins kind of gets a lot of slack for keeping horses apart, but I think with these two, like, you should keep them apart. They're probably not exactly the same type of horse either. Envoy Allen would be more of a staying horse, so that's the way I'd be looking anyway.
Okay.
Malone Rhodes looks to have a bit more pace.
Number 3.
Number 3 is Chacon Pour Soi. Let me just check.
You love these French pronunciations.
Yeah, I think Chacun Pour Soi, and I stand correct on this, is everyone for himself, basically. So, which kind of sums up life in many ways. But so he won his Irish debut at Naas by 30-odd lengths. Then he went straight into Grade 1 company at Punchestown and won very easily against Steffi Desoy. And there seems to be a doubt about Altior this season in terms of where he's going to go. So Chacun Pour Soi, I'd strongly recommend backing him for the Queen Mother, albeit it's a long way out, but yeah, he's exciting.
So a chaser?
Yes, and a really good jumper at that.
And this is like over 3 miles?
2 miles. I don't know, he could well say 3 miles. At the moment, though, 2 miles looks fine for him.
Okay. And that's the thing that happens over the course. So you're talking about the Queen Mother at this stage, and everybody's thinking that's where it's going to happen, but maybe in early January...
Maybe literally a week before the race, Willie Mullins would decide, nah, like, just changes his mind so frequently, and that's maybe part of his genius. But I wouldn't be taking it for granted that none of these horses are guaranteed to be running in the races I'm talking about. That's a kind of a disclaimer.
Yeah.
But that's the way they look at the moment.
Okay, so number 4, what have we got?
Gypsy Island, who I have a love-hate relationship with because she's won every single race except the day I backed her to win an Avon Hurdle, maiden hurdle, and she was beaten by a grossly inferior horse, given a pretty bad ride on that day. So she's one of those horses that, like, how did I get that beaten? Like, you know, but I did anyway. But she, as a consequence of losing that race, she's still a novice hurdler this season because they kept her to bumpers after that. So she hasn't actually won a maiden hurdle yet. And she has loads of tow. She's by Jeremy, the sire of O'Connor, Jer's Girl, and so on and so forth. And lots of tow. To me, she looks a Mayor's novice hurdle contender all day long.
Okay, at this stage?
She's like 7 or 8 to 1, I think, for the Mayor's novice hurdle.
And number 1?
For a bit of crack. 20 to 1, I think, to win the Gold Cup. 100 to 30 to win it last year. Presenting Percy.
All right.
So Pat Kelly, the enigmatic trainer, will hopefully be able
to...
Yeah, will hopefully be able to chart my fellow Galwegian. Actually drinks in the pub that used to be my local when I was a kid in Mount Bellew, which is strange because he's not from Mount Bellew, but it's a great pub.
And he still won't talk to you.
I think if you went to it's the Hawthorne in Mount Bellew. I think if you went there, and I always...
Of course, there are other pubs in Mount Bellew.
There are, but not the Hawthorne. Every time I go at the Hawthorne, I always dress particularly well because when I was younger, I looked quite baby-faced and I couldn't get served. So I used.
You're like, yeah, look at me now.
My mate was like.
You're like Biggie Smalls.
Yeah, I think it was like Yvonne Quillen put up recently. She was asked for ID in a bar in Dublin, and Yvonne was actually in college with me, so that doesn't happen to me anymore. But if I go to the Hawthorne, it's just a thing. I have to dress well, and if I dress well enough, and I offer to buy him a pint, and the invitation is there, Pat.
Maybe
I'm open for a pint in return. Anyway, presenting Percy's worth a bet to win the Gold Cup.
Right.
Basically, like, he had a terrible prep last year. We remember the famous photos of him
doing Galway,
but he actually had no chase prep for it out of his novice campaign. It wasn't ideal, and this year things went a bit against him. Maybe they did err in the way they prepped, but this year hopefully things go right. Philip Reynolds, his owner, son of Albert, one of the gents of the game, one of the luckiest owners I think in the game as well, and he's far too early to be written off.
Okay, all right. So there's 5 for us to watch across the season. Have you confidence in those 5, or is it like...
Yeah. Like, Present Percy's a big price, but they all could have... It's not the worst lucky 31 you could ever do if the bookmaker will lay you a bet, which is becoming harder and harder as it turns out.
Yeah, OK, so we've got to get on to our tote bet for the weekend. Here's a line I read last week. The tote Irish injured jockeys remains at €7,549 as the losing streak... Now, I didn't read this bit. Stands at 8 weeks. Last week.
8 weeks?
8 weeks without a winner. 2 months.
That's pretty barren. Does anyone out there actually want to give the tips? Like,
Bray's
bring Cheryl back. Bring Cheryl back.
Bray's disappointed at Galway last weekend. She was saying Mowgli has a chance on Sunday.
Yeah, and Willie's a trainer that I would I'd follow very much. He's been an excellent trainer. Bray's actually ran really well. He looked like he was going to win coming up the hill. He went odds on and running, then he faded. Such is life. This weekend
sees Down Royal Stage their biggest meeting of the year. That's tomorrow, and Sunday, Naas Stage is the last flat meeting of the season, and Cork hosts a high-class national hunt card as well. On the international front, obviously, Irish fans well represented at the Breeders' Cup, which comes from Santa Anita.
Yeah, and that starts this evening with the likes of Albina running for Jessica Harrington. It's kind of like a bit like the night before the wedding, in that really the Saturday is the big day. But I'm going to take a chance on one here at Naas. I think this horse will probably not win, but you're going to get a good each way price on him. That might sound funny, but it's all about getting the odds.
It's all about breaking the duck.
Yeah, Riven Light is going to be the favourite here, but Perfect Tapatino is going to be ridden by the champion-elect, who'll be his coronation is about an hour after this, Donnacha O'Brien, and he's a course and distance winner. He's a bit to find at the weights. He's top weight, but he's really, really consistent. And I have my doubts about pretty much every other runner in the race, particularly Riven Light, who's probably going to be the morning line favourite. And I think he'll run very well for Joseph and Donnacha, who just... This actually could be one of his last rides.
Before
I expect him to retire, and I'm not putting words in his mouth, but I don't know how long more he can go along. You know, he's obviously angling towards training. Let me just confirm that. Donico O'Brien, he's one more ride after, actually. Could be his penultimate ride, so enjoy him while he's there.
So Perfect Tapatino goes to post 3:45 at Naas on Sunday. What kind of odds do you think he might get in that?
I think it'll be about 8-10 to 1.
Okay, and we're going each way on the tote.
We're going each way, yeah. And the tote as well, bet into the tote for the Breeders' Cup as well. It's a very good way to bet, depending on how the kind of market's going. But it can be a very good way to bet at that meeting. There's so much money in it. All
right, Jumps Racing returns to Naas next Sunday, the 10th, with the tote for Tria Chase. This weekend is the last chance for tote account holders to claim their free tickets for next Sunday's racing. To claim your tickets, see thetote.com.
Come racing next Sunday, involved in a runner, Georgie Shore, who's going to be probably running at Navan, and Navan is a great place to go racing in the winter. It's really cold, but it has a just good proper national hunt feel to it. And Georgie Shore defied his years to win for Gavin Cromwell last Saturday, so hopefully he might follow up.
Again, so 2 wins in 2 weeks, you think?
I'd be hopeful, yeah. It's a long way out, but you know, he's can't be getting her head in front, I suppose.
All right, yeah. Good stuff. Johnny, good stuff. Thanks very much.
Thanks, sir.
That's another Friday Night Racing in the books for you this week. We're back every Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock across all of our social channels. Offtheball.com is the best place to get it. Of course, if you want to listen back to the podcast for Johnny's 5 to watch, then the best place to do that is on the Go Loud app. We will see you next week. A reminder, of course, Friday Night Racing is brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie or follow the new Twitter account at HRI Racing. Good luck.
Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.